Thank you. I would like to call the Horry County Solid Waste Authority Workshop Tuesday, September the 27th, 2016 at 4 o'clock to order. I'm going to do an invocation, and Mr. Jones, if you would do the pledge after that, I would appreciate it. If you'll bow your head. Heavenly Father, we certainly do come before you today. Thank you for everything that you have done for us and our country. We want you to be with us today and help us to learn, discern what we need to be doing, and to do that in your eyes and in your grace. Amen.
Amen. Stand and face the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have some new board members. Mr. Hughes, we do appreciate you being here, and I know that there are some things that when you come on, I did when I was new, that there are questions we have. Now is the time, any of the questions you have for our procedure, how we work things around here, and when it crosses your mind, Mr. Knight is going to be just basically going over our bylaws and our rules and regulations and an indication of how we do things here and the way things work. So if you have any question, Mr. Graves, you haven't gone through that before, and I just thought it wouldn't hurt us as board members to go through this again, because a lot of things in the landfill change from week to month to year, and that we should all be aware of these and know how this operation is. As a matter of fact, I think it's coming at a really good time after what I saw at the finance meeting, because of the raising of the salaries and how that works and how we are to interact with employees because of that. And those of you who were not at the finance meeting will understand what I'm talking about as soon as Mr. Knight goes through that. But there are some different things and different ways we do things, and we just need, I think everyone needs a little bit of an update, as well as the new members going through this real quickly. It'll probably be about an hour, but if something comes up and you have a question while Mr. Knight is going through this, just go ahead and let's get those questions answered while we're doing that. Thank you, Mr. Knight.
Okay. Thanks, Ms. Creech. I think the book's laid out in a manner that you can kind of keep up with it, and this is probably going to be a go-to book that you can kind of keep handy, because we will keep adding to it once we get the fee study done. We got a section in the back where we can put it in the book also. So the first section, section 1, was Ordinance 6090, which established the Solid Waste Authority. And it was recorded April 9th, 1991. And this is where the authority was set up and how it was set up. And what it's authorized to do. It was to develop and implement an adequate solid waste disposal and resource recovery recycling system for all residents. And I think as we go through this, there was some good work done back when this thing was set up with the rules and the bylaws and everything, and we just keep adding to them. How the board is governed. Of course, this has changed a little bit from the way it was originally set up. When it was originally set up, 3 members from the League of Cities was a list of names was presented, and the council kept changing that to where it's one name submitted now instead of a list. It says we can issue bonds and incur other indebtedness on its own or on behalf of the county. I can't, we very well may do that in the future. Better not say we probably won't. obtain flow control agreements with all entities of local government. And, of course, we've been through the flow control, and it gave us authority. I think it actually gave us the authority to do the Charleston deal without getting tangled up the way we did. Prepare bylaws, negotiate contracts, employ a person that's needed. So this is pretty much how the authority was set up. Number two, the mission statement of the Solid Waste Authority, and this is a pretty good document here to have been done back in 1990. To develop and implement in all respects an adequate solid waste disposal and resource recovery recycling system for all resident, commercial, and industrial operators within the county and such other entities as the authority deems appropriate. They set goals, and we'll go over some of those on page 2. Mission statement: to be an independent, innovative, responsive organization that aggressively provides comprehensive, cost-effective solid waste management in an environmentally sound manner, incorporating state-of-the-art methods and technology, and educating the public on responsible waste management. The goal number 1, a comprehensive solid waste management programs, and some of the objectives: yard waste reduction and collection, markets for the sale of recyclable, develop construction demolition waste processing programs, investigate incentives and alternate rate structures, explore concepts of either handling tires and land clearing, and we do all that. So these goals, we've pretty much hit most of them. Educational program, I think it speaks for itself. As I told INR this morning, I think we've got one of the finest educational programs in the state, or if not Southeast, and people's always come in to talk to us about the program. Actively promote source reduction and recycling. Of course, we do that. Household hazardous waste, you can see how much we collect of that, and that really doesn't have to be done. That stuff could actually go in the landfill, lined landfill, but we take the position that we think it's the best thing to do is not to do that. Develop and maintain administrative staff. Some of that we might have failed a little bit on, but we're trying to catch up. Communication with industry, federal, state, and local officials. We serve on boards and task forces across the state, and they really call on us to assist them as time goes on. Attract and well-maintained facilities, I think that speaks for itself. Employ, train, retain highly competent workforce. Some of those is provide employee training, evaluate the job description, maintain a merit pay system, administer a benefit program. Of course, we do that. Last one, encourage the development of a regional waste management plan. And you will see in here a thing that addressed regional solid waste, and it was really moving back in Ron Andrews' days, and by mere drawing circles on a map in Columbia. And I think Mr. Bassett was holding the map when those circles were drawn, and took the regional concept away from us. It was going to be at the landfill in Florence, and Senator Ovest did not want it, so with help, DHEC was given some new maps, and then it was not possible based on the new maps.
Before you go to the next one, what Mr. Knight has gone over, the mission statement that we have and some of the goals that we have, when we have things that come before us that we have to vote on and look at, to me, this is some of the criteria that you may want to look back and see if what we are choosing to do or where we're choosing to go fits within these guidelines, because that's what those are for. If it doesn't fit within these guidelines, then I think we have to look at the procedure and look at our policies, because if we do things that do not fit within these guidelines, at that point, I would think we need a policy change. But this is information, when we start looking at different things that it comes up. If you have a question about it, of course, you can talk with Mr. Knight or look back within that and see how, in your opinion or perception, that fits within these guidelines.
Okay, number 3 is the organization of the Solid Waste Authority, and it gives you a organizational chart and who answers to whom. And then each department is written up a briefing, how many people are in and what they do. And this just gives you an idea on how the organization is set up and how it works. 4 is the bylaws. And of course, they pick up some of the same information that was in the mission statement and the ordinance. And these are guidelines that to change these, they will have to be changed by the board, by 2/3 vote, and then they have to be agreed to by Odry County Council. I mean, we can step by step on transfer properties, issue bonds, set a rate structure, tipping fee, and other disposal fees adequate to cover the cost of the authority for operation and maintenance, debt service, and capital improvement reserve. And in a sense, this gives us somewhat the authority to set fees. But then again, when you get to the back, council has to approve the budget. So they've got a pretty good.
What page is that on?
Page 2. On
Page 2
4.
in the 4th section.
I mentioned earlier that, these were going back in time.
You need to speak into your microphone.
Only reason I moved, Danny, is because I can hear better when I read your lips.
I understand.
Some of the phraseology here was at a different time, and that doesn't mean it isn't valid. It just means in today's world of politics, which is what you were referring to, as a subcomponent unit of county government, and we're always subject to approval of the county council. And I don't think you meant to say that we by ourselves, without permission and approval of county council, could issue bonds, for instance, even though it may be in here. And the same thing with regional concept and that sort of thing. You have to have a framework within which to work, which we do, but we also have to put it in the sense of, well, the council is different, the board is different, and the economy is different. And
Well, we need to treat them the same way as I treat y'all. I have a lot of authority by the documents, but I always appraise y'all of what we're doing. And a lot of times ask you how you feel about it. Do we need to move on? And so I think we got to a good open door now with the INR committee, and we'll just see how that goes. But when it was set up, it was kind of set up to keep them out of it. And I was on the tipping floor of a burn center in Fort Lauderdale when the idea came up for the authority. The chairman of the council was leading us around. He said everybody that was on council that voted for this thing that needed to be done got defeated. And you need to separate yourself from it the best you can. And that's where the idea of the authority was born. We had 4 or 5 council with us. Steve Dawson, Johnny Shelley was there, and M.L. Love was the administrator, Ulysses DeWitt. But we've come a long way. Limitation of the authority. We send minutes. We send the budget. They changed, we can't do a unbudgeted capital expenditure over $50,000 without the council's approval, and that's on page 3. We can't sell or buy real estate without county council approving it. Membership, it goes to how the board's made up, how they're selected, elections, removal, terms, vacancies, how they're all managed. And these, along with the rules, was worked up last year over about a 2-year period of time. And we tried to get them pretty much into today's language. Reappointments, it's all spelled out. Regular meetings, special meetings. And of course, we operate under the Freedom of Information Act. The meetings have got to be advertised by the state. And on page 7 of section 8, and this is in the rules too, and it's just about in everything. No board member may independently direct the conduct or require the assistance of any authority staff but share at all times direct requests for information, assistance, advice, or discussion through the executive director. And I think that just keeps it clear on what information is being sent out, making sure the information is responded to. And these rules and the other rules are pretty much taken from the county council guidelines for their committees and for their actions. So this is nothing strange to anyone in government. This is probably stretched more so across the state than any other thing when it comes to managers and administrators, and most time this very thing here is the downfall of many professional managers across the state.
Before you go on, Mr. Knight, this is the way this is set up. If we have questions, if there's a board member that has any question, whatever it may be, that has to do with this organization, has a right to have it answered, and it needs to be. In our bylaws, it says we are to go to Danny Knight, just like in county council, they go to their administrator. For those of you who are not at INR today, Mr. Vaught had to say, we have a quorum of council here, and I want to remind you that unless you're on this committee, you don't ask a question, you don't talk. Because that's the way legally these things are set up and could cause a problem if you do not have that. Since we are at this, if you would explain what has happened at the Finance Committee with the law now that we have, if you were at $27,000 and a few dollars above, then you were considered a management and you weren't paid overtime. They have raised that to $47,000 and above. And while that applies to several of our employees, what it also means to us is this: the new laws that they have there, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I decide I want to know something and I call someone that will now be working for the Solid Waste Authority that is not exempt any longer, they will get overtime. If I decide at 7 o'clock this afternoon that I want an answer and I call that person has to record their time. If they talk to me 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And if they are below that $47,000, they get overtime or time and a half.
Correct.
Time and a half for my conversation. That is another reason, particularly when we are in a budget like we're in, that if you are a board member and you have a question to be asked, you obviously need an answer and you have a right to have an answer. We need to call this gentleman because we're not going to have to pay him time. He's just going to have to work overtime and be happy about it. So that was one of the reasons, that's one of the new things that we apply back to this. If you have a question, it needs to be answered. If you don't get it answered, let me know. I'll make sure you get it answered. But when we do this, we either need to do it with 8 to 5 when they're here working, and we need to come and say, we need to tour the landfill, and I want to see what the people are doing pulling this out, and if I have a question for them on how they're doing that or why they're doing that, quite frankly, we need to have that answered. I need to comprehensively understand why they're doing that, and that's not a problem. But we need to do it where we're not paying time and a half to people that, because we don't know who's making below $47,000 here. This gentleman does. So if you have a question or you want something done or you want to come see something and talk with people, instead of just driving out here and having a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and going out and talking to people after 5 o'clock, we need to talk to this man right here. And those are the reasons why. If you would like to.
Are you through?
Yes.
Immaterial of that, am I incorrect when in understanding that our bylaws disregarding that say we don't do that, we go to him? It doesn't, even without the money or the time and a half for the rest of it, our bylaws say that because we don't know as a board what that employee is doing, whether they're in the middle of a crisis or a big project or whatever they're at, or what he has them doing, and for us to interrupt them. So that's been, as long as I've been here, that's when one of the rules, before this came up. Right. If
You're
we have
exactly
a question, it goes to him.
It is. That is a part of the new people understanding how this works. He's the go-to man for whatever you want. And whatever information you need, he can get it for us. That is in the bylaws. It has always been there as long as I've been here. You're correct. There just happens to be another reason why we need to be very careful about that. Mr. Knight?
Okay, page 8, we go on about elections and officers and terms of the officers and duties of the chair, vice chair, and secretary, and so on. The chair of the executive director shall execute all contracts and agreements authorized by the board. The regulations on page 10 is of the business and conduct of the affairs of the shall conform to federal and state income tax laws and any other federal, state, as determined by the bylaws. Amendments and conflicts will be handled like the rest of them. Would have a seal, and there was a big, discussion about if we, break up and we dissolve the Solid Waste Authority, that can be done by 2/3 majority of members of the board, but it has to be approved by the majority of county council, and all the assets goes to Odry County. Of course, through the paperwork and that goes to the state, it lists what's owed, the liabilities and everything, and most of the time, we're relying on the state agencies to make sure that is handled in the appropriate fashion by county council. Number 5 is the restated rules of Odry County. And this is kind of the Roberts Rules of Order. If something in these guidelines, something happens that's not in these, then we go to Roberts Rules to do it.
There are several Robert's Rules of Orders. Have we ever indicated which one we would go to?
No, ma'am.
There was a book passed out since I've been here,
Okay.
and I'm assuming since we gave out the book, that's the one we chose.
That's the one you chose, okay.
It's,
Just checking. And there are a lot of Robert Rules of
They're
Orders.
truly are.
And it's amazing, but that's the one y'all chose, okay.
Page 5, decorum and debate. That gives you an idea on how a meeting should be run and who can speak. And then 5-5 at the bottom of page 5, we write back to another statement. Assistance from staff shall be directed to the executive director. It's stated again in the rules. Talks about committees, and you're right, that was the second time that I've heard county council address committees that the quorum need to be followed. And at one time, they went in executive session, and the other ones couldn't go in executive session.
That's correct. If you were not on that committee, even though you were there and a council person, you could not attend that executive session.
Okay, we'll go to 6, conflict of interest. Conflict of interest is pretty much right out of state law, and state ethics, and it just, it spells out pretty much what you shouldn't do, what you shouldn't be a part of as an employee, as a board member. And on page, after page 3, there's part of the meeting where the council, the board made a motion about these, and general vote was on there and how the vote went. 7?
Before you get into that, if anyone on the board has a question, if you think there is a question of whether or not you're voting on something would be a conflict of interest. In other words, whether you would be making money one way or the other, or a family member, or any of these things. If you will ask Mr. Knight, he would ask the attorney and get an opinion on that. That's happened at council quite a bit. When I sat on the Zoning Board of Appeals for 8 years, a case that came up, someone had gone to the county attorney and said they thought I should recuse myself. And they gave them reasons why. went to the county attorney and asked for his opinion. His opinion was that I did not have any reason to recuse myself, therefore I did not. If the county attorney said there was any reason whatsoever, implied or the looks or whatever, I would have recused myself because in my opinion, that's what should be done. But that's just my perception and my opinion. But if anyone sitting here, if something ever comes up that may have to do with your business or your family or monetary gain, then before you vote on that, please do talk with Mr. Knight or the attorney to make sure that there's no problems with any of that. Thank you.
Chairman, I've actually been part of groups where a board member or a member of a committee could recuse themselves but not leave the room. I've also been parts where the individual is actually required to leave the room. Is there stipulation here?
I don't think there's stipulation here, but in following what the county does, I think we should leave.
It's, the FOIA law indicates the procedure, and the FOIA law would say that it's proper to leave the seat where you would normally vote and leave the room so that you weren't making hand signals to the next person or whatever. So the best practice is to leave the room so that you can't direct it from afar. And then if anybody ever challenges you, you can say, I don't care what the vote was, I wasn't in the room at the time. It just puts you in the best posture if you're challenged.
Thank you.
But state law doesn't mention the chicken room, does it?
It goes without saying, if you need to recuse yourself, should not be trying to influence a member of the board before that.
Or eat chicken. It's implied.
The next one is number 7, executive session, and apparently every law that we have was caused by some action prior, and I think this was done for the simple reason executive sessions were discussed in executive session, closed, and somebody was telling everything that happened in executive session, so the board passed this little policy. 8 is flow control. Boy, did this take a lot of work and a lot of heat. A lot of stuff in it is now, we set up certain places, designated facilities for some stuff to go. When flow control went out, those designated facilities were no longer needed. So in the stickers and all that stuff is not being done. And then ordinance 7813, also behind that tab was the ordinance that took C&D out of flow control. And it, one of the things, one of the points was to help with the growth in the housing industry, so apparently it worked. It looks like the housing industry's up, so. But we did lose a lot of money in that process, and looks like we're gonna get ready to lose some more. 9.
At what page was that on?
It was the ordinance, there's 2 ordinances behind that tab.
Tab 8,
Yes, sir.
and
If you'll turn to,
7813, is that?
that's it.
Okay, that's the one where they carved out C&D
Yes, sir.
and said that was exempt from
That's right.
flow control.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. 9, It's the host fee, the $2.25. And, when I asked Kevin Blake to serve on the committee to choose the firm to do the, fee study, first thing he asked was, are they gonna take up the $2.25? And I said, we're gonna look at every income stream that we have, every expense that we have, and every stream of waste and what it's worth to us. So yes, we will be looking at the, $2.25 for what it's worth. And while we're on that, I've also asked Ron Andrews to sit on the selection committee, and Justin with the finance department with the county. We got a score sheet, we've got everything put together, and as I told the INR committee this morning, once we select that group, if they ask for information, we're gonna give them the documents, but we're gonna stay arm's length away from the working of it, because I certainly don't want to be accused of influencing them to get a fee increase or a decrease. So, and in the back, I've got a breakdown on the schedule, which is very aggressive.
What was the number on the $2.25, total number last year?
700,000 sticks in my mind. Yeah,
Seven what? It's usually around three-quarters.
700,
Yeah,
yeah.
but then you said something about the, when you were speaking to Ron Andrews and an independent group, and you said it was in the back of where, or?
We're gonna have a tab on 13 that's, once we get the fee study in, that's where the fee study will go, in the tab. But I've got an agenda that I was gonna speak to y'all tonight about. They due Friday. The books are due Friday. And by next Tuesday, we will be read them, scored them, and staff is meeting Tuesday to see how they shake out. We got a couple of days. We may need some telephone interviews with them to get a better answer on what they've stated. But by the end of the week, we'll be issued a PO, and we want the information to be back to us in time to give it to the county and the cities for their budget preparation, if there's a change.
Well, what role would the special group that you mentioned that Ron Andrews would be on, do they make the decision?
No, they will help us choose the firm that does the study
Okay,
based on the information that those firms send us. We've limited them to I think it's 20 pages front and back on information. It's got to be in a certain format, so hopefully they're not gonna be that hard to read and score, but they will help us make a recommendation for the people doing the study. Jan's on it, Mike's on it, Bill, Esther, and myself's also on it, so there'll be 7, 8 of us doing the work.
And how many companies bidding?
We sent it to 5. We put it in the paper.
So you won't know until they're due back exactly.
That's
how many.
right.
I got you.
That's right. 3 or 4 of the largest engineering firms on the East Coast are interested. So I'm hoping we're gonna get some good documents that'll help us.
so will the selection process will include the staff members that you mentioned, along with
Yes, sir.
other qualified individuals, you go through the proposals or submittals and choose the one you think is best to do the rate study.
And we've got a score sheet that, the price was, I think, 15 points, 25 points, the price, the location of the firm, if they've done any in the past, and those type things. So I think we've got some good criteria, and, we'll see. It's gonna be interesting.
Frankly, this process that you're talking about beginning, this is a blinding glimpse of the obvious, but the work of this group, fee study group, fee study consultant, whatever,
Yeah.
and how we react to it, I think, is gonna be the most important thing that we've done in the last, since we began, because this charts sustainability for this organization right on out to 2040 or whenever. If we don't have enough money to get the job done.
That's right. And the point that I made this morning, when we were told you're gonna do a fee study. And then when I listened and talked to people in Indianapolis and found out who had done them and what they had done, then thinking back about people that had been wanting a portion of our trash, our garbage, what I want to get out of it is what that waste stream is worth to the organization. And if somebody comes in and wants half of it, then we know what they've got to give us for it, or what the other waste streams have got to make up to fill the hole. And we won't be made that, those choices and the numbers. It'll be a professional that's in the business. So I think we can then argue with someone with a magic box that, this is worth more than you're saying you're gonna give us, for the material. So it's gonna be interesting.
I think it's also a good idea that we have not only the staff here, but also people from the cities who are involved in this, and members of the county staff that are involved in this, so that everyone is very open and everyone is in on this. It's no problem. Everybody's gonna have their say. The county will be involved in it. The cities will be involved in it. The professionals will be involved in it, and will be involved in it. So that encompasses everyone that has a stake, that is a stakeholder in here. And I think that's a great way to do it, and I'm glad that that's the way we are doing this here today.
We've requested 2 meetings or 3 meetings with the consultant, ever who gets it. That they will come down, they will gather the information they need, the budget from the CAPers and the equipment list and all those type things that will go to making this thing work. And then we will have 2 more meetings. One meeting will be back with the kind of the staff to get a kind of a general idea on how they put it together, how understandable it is, if there's any freaky buttons in it that we could change a little bit to not offend anyone or get us in a jam. But then we will have another meeting where we will present it, and that meeting will be open. And then the next meeting, we will invite the movers and the shakers, and they can ask questions and see how it was put together by the consultant. And we've
Call it
also,
button?
sir,
Did you say squeaky button?
freaky button,
Okay.
kind of like a landmine.
Is that, I know it's a weasel clause, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's see, where are we? Regional concept, behind tab 10, and this is something that, the board set up going for a regional process that was adopted, I think, by the county council also. Mr. Ray Brown was the acting chairman. Mr. Brown always said there's no such thing as an acting chairman. You either the chairman or you ain't the chairman. And I ain't acting chairman, I'm the chairman. So, but they had it down as acting. Okay, the next is, page, tab 11, the budget request certificate of resolution. And this is something you can go back to, and it gives you the tipping fees, and some of the stuff that was approved in the budget, and it's something that we do each year. So that's information for you that you can turn to. The waste characterization study is behind tab 12, and we presented this to the INR this morning. We went over somewhat in depth to give them an idea of where to look and what their convenience centers were doing. And when we got to the back page, on page 25 of it, there was some recommendations, and the last one was disposal bans. And I told them we'd do it all, pretty much the rest of the stuff. We go to businesses and institutions, and we can do education, the convenience. The county will never do that, because I don't think they'll ever get away from the convenience center collection sites. We passed incentives to encourage recycling in clean wood, C&D, even to the point that if a company brings, how much they bring to the MRF as a sliding scale that will reduce their tipping fee at the gate to encourage recycling. But as I told the council this morning, we can push recycling, but if it don't cross the scales, we lose in money. But it's still the thing to do to save landfill space. And I don't think anybody can accuse us of not attempting to save landfill space every day. 13 will be your tab for the fee study when it comes back. And like I say, they're due Friday, September the 30th. We'll issue a PO by October the 7th. And November the 7th, they will have their first draft back to us. They've got 30 days. We had one firm to request the possibilities of extending that time, and we told them we couldn't extend it because we had to get it to the other governmental agencies to be fair with them in their budget process. So we'll see if that firm sends the book in. I'm sure they will.
What is the first date that our board can, listen in or be a part of whatever's happening?
Draft report due will be November the 7th. No, the draft report's due, now we don't have it down here. We'll get that date to you.
Would it be after or before November 7th? You're not sure?
It'll be after.
Okay. I just want to make sure that none of us happens, makes a mistake
We won't-
and gets involved.
We want everybody here that can be here.
But not before it's time, right?
But
And that'll be after November.
because I don't think, once they come and gather the information, I don't think we will see them back here till they come and with that first draft. I think that's the next time that you will see any of that group. I may be talking to Jan or some of us or Bill on, how does this budget work? I mean, we've already got everything set up in cost centers, and we pretty much said that in the RFP. They're not gonna have to come in here and set up a set of books to understand, how we budget and what we use the money for, so. Hopefully that will help reduce the cost of some of these people that's responding.
Well, we know as board members, who the, potential bidders will be.
Yes, when we get them in, we will get in touch with y'all and let you know who responded. And then we will let you know who was, recommended choice and what firm they are, and probably get you some information, some of their propaganda stuff.
Question on the tip of my tongue, but my turned 75, I can't remember, you know what? I'll ask you after a while.
Okay, and that's rough through. If there's, have any questions later on, reading through it and you see something, let me know and we'll get more information.
Does this board, I remember now, does this board, the final arbiter, and we would recommend that you go with it, or does it have to go to county council from there?
On what?
Selection of the person who's gonna do the rate study.
I don't intend to take it back to county council. We
Okay.
will keep them posted. We'll keep Justin posted. We'll keep, the League of Cities, posted on who's responded. And I'm hoping that Ron Andrews and Kevin has talked to some of the other league, but, we will probably go ahead and do that next week too. I'll get a letter out to John Rhodes.
Will it come before the board to vote, or will just the panel choose?
No, I think what we'll do is we will recommend, that team to you and give you the scores. And I don't think y'all would have to vote on it.
Okay. But it will come back before us to look at
Oh,
before you
yeah,
decide?
yeah. I mean, the final plan will be, you will have to vote on the final plan. Because it will be a part of the budget, and it will be part of the budget that we send to county council.
Dovetailing your question, Pam, so the selection of the consultant will be solely by that group that you mentioned earlier, some of our staff, some of the other people.
Yes.
And you would tell us who it is and so forth and so on and why and all that kind of stuff, but that's the way the decision will be made. But whether or not to adopt the recommendations or change them or so forth and so on remains with this board,
Yes.
and not going beyond here to county council.
That'll be a budget decision, and then our budget goes to county council. But I think we got clear direction last year on what we need to do, and that's the path we're marching down.
Understand, thank you.
Do any of the board members have any questions of Mr. Knight?
I don't have any questions. I would like to thank you, though, for the opportunity. I did read a lot of the stuff, and so I know there may be some questions coming on up. I really wanted to study the goals and the conflict of interest and those kinds of things. The audience I was pretty familiar with, but as questions come up, I know who to run to.
And I think any information that you get, and I went ahead and pulled up, the board of directors, their appointment times, And, you know, I don't know if Esther has sent y'all that or not, and the committees would be a pretty good thing to keep in the sleeve of this book, because this book can be awfully beneficial to you in anything else that, will help you work in a tab.
I'm sure
or
I
put
got
it in
one if
there.
it was sent out, but could we get another one, put it in this book?
Yes,
Thank you.
Mr.
And Chairman, I read all this just slightly over a year ago, but it's, I agree with Mr. Hughes, it's good to go over it. It doesn't hurt to know where the, you know, where the curbs are and the gutters are, so just to keep you on the road. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I hope everyone will keep this book, and as you said, as a question comes up, Mr. Knight can definitely answer that for you. And the many varied things that we do here from time to time, more than likely, I've had questions over the last 3 years, and I'm sure everyone will. So those will be answered at that time. We have any more comments or discussion items, or? Okay, is the staff finished with our,
yes, sir.
okay?
I think I heard a hold on from the back.
I thought I heard a scream from back there too. Oh, from back
No,
there.
no, it was over there, but the TV was on earlier and I could hear it. That's what I got up for. But
Okay,
I don't think this was TV related.
okay.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Being deaf is the same way. The hearing aids are the same way, see?
I want to tell you a story, but it doesn't have to be an official story.
Okay. Are we, well, that's, I would like to, okay, the staff is finished. Is there a motion to
So moved.
adjourn? Second. Everyone in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.